Good morning, early game crew. Happy Monday. And usually during the football season, we have a Reaction Monday with South Carolina Gamecock football. We kind of have one because of some transfer portal news. And, of course, we're reacting to what was 4 straight days of essentially playoff football between college football and the NFL. There's a lot to react to, a lot to discuss, including a couple of games that happened at CLA over the weekend. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She is Jen Jensen. We are amped to be up with you this morning.
The very excited.
The most
Jen
excited because she is rocking her Chicago Bears shirt. Because even though it looked bad, even though they're down 21-3 at half, the Chicago Bears are the NFL's version of a cockroach in nuclear warfare. You can't kill them.
Yes, you can't kill them. They'll kill you if you're watching, if you're a fan. Okay.
The Gamecast. When I thought, okay, when Jordan Love hit Matthew Golden for that touchdown and it made it 27-16, I was like, okay, that's probably your chance there. I think
27-16 with 6 minutes to go. 6:36 to be exact.
All it took was one touchdown with a 2-point conversion. Brandon McManus to miss his 3rd kick in the game.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mentioned it on these airwaves yesterday. Brandon McManus, in his career in the playoffs on field goals, 11 for 13. He missed 3 kicks, 2 field goals, and an extra point. He missed more kicks in the playoff game Saturday night than he has in his entire playoff career combined. Huge. Wow. We're just noticing trends here. We are not making any declarations, but we are pointing out trends, and that is a historical trend.
Yeah, you could just see like, hey, Pope, we have some stuff we need you to talk. There's some people you need to talk to, some folks you need to bless. And he's like, hold on a second. 6 minutes.
You could. And maybe that's just an act of goodwill. Yeah. That way it's not totally like, hey, I'm using my powers for sporting good here overall in my hometown. Yeah, because there are a lot of Chicago sports fans that reside in the state of Indiana where the Indiana Hoosiers took a sledgehammer to Oregon. My God. It started on the very first play of the game where D'Angelo Pons picks off Dante Moore, takes that bad boy to the house. Oregon, comes back on the next drive, methodically marches down the field, scores, and then I think Indiana scored 28 straight.
Elijah,
something like that.
I told you off air, but I have to say it now because we're here. Dan Lanning's your boy.
That is, yes.
I like Dan Lanning a lot. I like Dan.
Handsome.
I like Dan a lot. He has all the things that I need in a coach that I really prefer in a coach. However, or as Elijah Campbell would say, however,
with A at the end of it.
There are some charges that are brewing.
I don't know if I want to hear it.
0 for 1 against Kirby.
Should I unplug my headphones?
0 for 1 against Kirby. 0 for 2 against Signetti. 0 for 3 against DeBoer. 1-1 against Ryan Day.
Sammy's James Franklin.
They're just, it's a case is building. That's all I'm going to say. I don't believe it, but I feel you being Dan Lanning's #1 representative east of the Mississippi,
yes.
I feel like you just need to understand the climate that you're facing as you defend him?
I am well prepared for this.
Okay.
I am somebody who grew up loving Peyton Manning. Was never a Colts fan, but I loved Peyton Manning, and I did the whole Peyton versus Tom Brady thing forever, including having a stepdad at one time who would never let it go. So I'm built for this.
Okay.
I'm built for this, and
I just wanted to let you know what's out there.
because my whole thing is he will get him one day. It just isn't today.
Okay.
And just because he hasn't doesn't mean he can't. I felt my boy Justin Hall, who I do the high school football scoreboard show with,
Shout out to Justin.
good dude, said the same. That's his whole thing with James Franklin was that just because he hasn't done it doesn't mean he can't. And I believe in James Franklin. Anybody that took any type of Vanderbilt team to 9 wins in a football season, to me, you're always going to be a good coach if you have just done that. Even if that's all you do, that is a pretty impressive feat. And now Clark Lee has put himself into that pantheon and one-upped it by getting a 10-win season. But I think Dan Lanning's going to get him one day. They just ran into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, man, it's a thing. I think people are slowly coming around to it, and we don't need to really. We probably the story's worth mentioning because of who Indiana has been historically. Oh, to that point, maybe a preview of my winner segment. Antoine Randall L.
He's on the staff, isn't he?
Of the Bears.
The Bears. Oh, Indiana great, Antoine Randall L.
Big weekend for him. So he's on the Bears staff and Indiana has win. So shout out to him. That might be a preview for the winners segment today. That being said, because of who Indiana has been, and the reason why I said it because in my mind it's only been Antoine Randall L.
Can I think of another Indiana player that has played in the NFL? There's got to be like one other.
Are we going to give Michael Penix? Are we going to do that?
Penix?
Are we going to do that? You know, I mean, can we do that? Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
does he say Indiana when he's on Sunday Night Football and they're doing the starting lineup?
Good question.
Does he go Michael Penix, quarterback, Indiana?
Good question.
If so, then we can count it. If not, any attempt to claim Michael Penix shall be considered stolen valor.
But
that's the rule.
I guess my overall point is that we are totally out of Cinderella territory here. Yeah. Get used to it. It's not they're here.
Yeah, their only 2 losses were to the 2 teams that played in the college football playoff national championship last year, Notre Dame. And technically, if they do end up losing to Miami, then they would have 3 losses in 2 years to 3 teams that played in the national championship, including one of those games would have been in the national championship. That's just assuming they lose. I am no longer choosing to be in the business of assuming Indiana is losing a football game. I'm out on it. I'm done.
You should be. I mean, Jen, just 26-2. It hasn't happened a lot.
Yeah.
At all.
I'm not picking. I can't pick against these guys. You know what's crazy, though, too? I think it's in the last 5 games or 5 of their last 6, something like that. They have picked off the opposing quarterback on the opening drive.
Well, it's funny you say that, Elijah, because the internet is also saying maybe some tomfoolery going on. Maybe some advanced scouting happening. It's just what the internet's saying. Now, the internet could be connected to certain Oregon accounts.
It could be, yeah.
Maybe it's message board mayhem material.
Yep.
But that statistic is interesting.
I would say you're probably really good at scouting your other team one way or another. How advanced it is, I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. Because if your script is that predictable,
it's true,
and you're running the same script, then I think it's a you problem.
Could be something to that.
Because here's the thing, and I had this same belief whenever Michigan had their thing. If your code is that decipherable, you're not working hard enough on a code. Unless your building is bugged, which I doubt it is, right? These football budgets are insane, but they're not that insane. Like, they don't have CIA-level intelligence. They're not the FBI, and they're bugging your homes, right? Even that probably is the next step in terms of college football scandals. I think we're getting closer to getting there. They're just straight up is no more prepared team in college football than Indiana. And I think that's, like, we keep looking for the one thing that maybe is the magic sauce or is the elixir, but it seems like it's actually really simple. Don't get penalized. Don't take a ton of risks. teach the fundamentals and do the fundamentals better than anybody else. Know your assignment, execute the play.
And fifth, beat your face in.
Yes.
Take your face and throw you in a locker and stuff you in a locker repeatedly.
Like Marshawn Lynch says, over,
Over.
over,
Yeah.
over, and over.
Can you do this over and over again?
And over and over and over again. That's what they do. I'm telling you. You know, I think it was when it was like 21-7 and Indiana had the ball in Oregon territory. They run that pitch play where usually the guard is the one kind of being pulled. They pull Pat Coogan at center, and Pat Coogan gets out there. He's ahead of Hemby, the running back, and he sees an Oregon safety running his way, and he grabs him one way and throws him out of bounds and clears over another pathway, and Hemby picks up another 6 yards and gets down to about the 1 yard line. That was the play I saw, and I was like, oh. There's a bully on the playground right now, and there's a team that there's a little ducky that's not getting in that sandbox.
Yeah, that's a very difficult spot for that DB to be in because you don't practice that. You don't see the center with his eyes dead set on you.
Yeah, you don't practice standing in front of a freight train.
And because of big offense, they've legislated the only tool that DBs had in that situation was essentially to take out your knees. They've taken that out of the game, so it's a very difficult spot for that DB to be in. But, oh well.
A win for the big nasty. And they maybe have the nastiest big nasty in college football now.
I don't like offensive linemen, but I really don't like DBs, so oh well.
As I say, do you dislike DBs more than you dislike offensive linemen?
Correct.
Where does the stench of the DB, the personal stench of the DB kind of come from?
Oh, they're just wide receivers.
That can't catch.
I mean, even if some of them can catch.
Some of them can't catch.
It's just the same archetype. It's the same person, just on the other side of the ball.
Which, speaking of the, I guess, prototypical wide receiver personality archetype, because this is Reaction Monday, we are reacting to things we saw over the weekend. A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni
You don't say.
aren't going on any dates or anything anytime soon. And I don't know what Nick Sirianni was mad at, which it could be a lot of things, because you know what? A.J. Brown sucked yesterday. That dude was straight up bad and killed a couple of drives. Whether it's not running as hard as he can to get underneath one of those balls and end up missing it on his fingertips because you kind of gave up on the route, which he's done a few times this year, or having a pass across the middle at a play where you have to help your quarterback out and it hits your hands and you got to catch it, and he lets it bounce off his hands. I don't know, A.J. Brown. I think I'm probably just taking that butt chewing if I'm you.
Another situation where it's very difficult to choose sides on these two characters because
I don't love Nick
I
Sirianni.
don't like either one of these dudes. So it's a tough one to choose sides. They're made for each other.
Because A.J. Brown,
they deserve each other.
A.J. Brown has done this woe is me, crybaby BS
all year
in Tennessee too.
And in various, if we're doing it at different organizations, if we're doing it for different years after you just won a Super Bowl. That being said, the wrong person could be right because A.J. Brown's been trying to say, hey, our offense is trash. And he's right. And he's a major contributor
He's
to
a
it being
big
trash.
contributor as to why they are trash. Ball hits your hand, A.J. What are you getting paid to do? Catch the ball. Ball goes in the air. It's being thrown to you. What are you paid to do? Run hard to go catch the ball. You know what? We're not putting, get on the line isn't today, but, early contender of get on the line, A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Come on, dog.
Yeah.
You have all the talent in the world. You're an you are the key to an offensive padlock, and you threw it away this year. Threw it away this year. And that's why they are no longer playing in the playoffs. But coming up next, we said we'd react to some Gamecock news and football, and I would consider this weekend a win for the 2026 Gamecock team, and they didn't have to actually play a football game. We'll tell you why coming up next here in the early game.
Press in for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, big-time gymnastics meet like I was at all weekend. Absolute Glass will come out and take care of it for you. They will come out to you, and they'll give you a free quote. And if they do the job, they'll take it away from you. Now, if you're at home, looking to increase the value of your home, Absolute Glass can do that too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Well, South Carolina Gamecock football team, did not play an actual football game over the weekend. However, I would say they were winners over the weekend because they got a haul. Now, as we left Friday, going into the weekend, had a small handful of portal additions, but a lot of players, targeted. Well, now those targets become commits. Because over the weekend, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 new college football players become South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, well, by the time you got to like 5, I was like, all right, is this going to stop? Are we just going to keep doing this? How many is going to happen? Because I kind of lost track of who was coming in. But aside from the quantity, because I think quantity-wise, it's going to fill up. It's kind of like we got to fill the roster.
You have to.
There's dudes. There's going to be dudes. So I think we have to look at some of the needs that were met. And I think that, to me, is where the winning really happened because they met some of the things that they went out shopping for.
Now, later in the program, I will say specifically at 7 o'clock, we will talk about the experience factor because a lot of people are solely pointing that to the reason that Indiana has made this jump.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take a look at what exactly South Carolina has done to get older. Did they technically get older? Well, some of the players in the offensive line do have some solid experience playing college football. Now, if we want to start with Seth Smith, left tackle at Northern Arizona, he's a 4-year guy playing college football. Dane Arnett from Ferris State, Division II powerhouse Ferris State, played 3 years at the Division II level. And Emmanuel Poku, interior offensive lineman at East Carolina, is a 4-year guy there too. So there is at least plenty of experience. Now, if we want to look at some of those guys, the offensive line, and try to kind of gauge whether or not we think they're going to be getting on the field a lot, because again, when you lose that many offensive linemen in the transfer portal, you're going to have to add an almost equal amount into the transfer portal, even if they're not going to be starters, right? I'm sure Shane had to use the term, you might not get a lot of playing time, but we need, we are giving you the opportunity to earn it.
Come in here and compete.
Yes, that's one of his big things, right? When talking about transfer portal players and what the pitch is to a lot of these guys, it's an opportunity to compete. So I'm sure he got to sell pretty frequently the opportunity to compete for a lot of these guys. But Emmanuel Poku is a guy that I think we can probably end up seeing. Did not give up a sack last year, only 12 pressures and a 498 pass block snaps, had a pass block grade of 60.6 or 69.1 actually, nice, on the year, and a run block grade of 60.6. So both are good, acceptable, and a guy with a lot of experience. I really like him. I don't have, to be honest, there's not a lot of Division II data out there in terms of stats and everything like that, but Dane Arnett, 3-year guy, again, if the name Ferris State doesn't at least make you raise an eyebrow, let it be known that is where Trinidad Chambliss came from. That is a Division II program that in Bill Connolly's SP Plus, in which he includes Division I and Division II teams, had SP Pluses in terms of their efficiency higher than some Group of 5 teams. That's how good Ferris State is at the Division II level. They are a buzzsaw. And then Seth Smith from Northern Arizona, a left tackle. Now, he's got good size. However, gave up only 4 sacks, but he did give up 31 pressures. So, big body with experience and opportunity to compete. Maybe a guy that can come in there as a rotational player or maybe a situational player. But otherwise, his grades on Pro Football Focus were really good. A run block grade of 73.8, which is a good plus. Pass block was 64.6, despite giving up a lot of pressures. So it tells me that he showed he can stay in front of guys and protect the quarterback, but also have games in which he doesn't. There is a little level of inconsistency there.
Is there's an offensive line equivalent to a home run hitter?
A home run hitter, yeah.
He swings, either he swings for the fences or he strikes out.
Like, what was it, Dave Kingman, I guess?
He's either gonna stone you or you're gonna get a sack.
Adam Dunn, another one of those guys, or like a high volume 3-point shooter like J.R. Smith. Side note, one of the most fun sports drinking games I've ever played with friends is taking a shot of your choice Only if J.R. Smith makes a three. You're either going to be wildly intoxicated by quarter number 4, or you are not drinking a drop all night. But what you do know is he's going to give you about 12 attempts to do so.
There's going to be opportunities.
It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun, not going to lie. But maybe that's the offensive line equivalent. But if you get him in here, and maybe there's something they see on film too, that's another thing too. You take a lot of these numbers with a grain of salt, because maybe there's something that Randy Clements can see on tape, or this coaching staff sees on tape and says, we could fix that, right? I mean, how many basketball players on the planet have you watched shoot a three-pointer and be like, oh, I could fix that. I could fix him. Just tuck that elbow in, get a little more arc on your shot.
It's the same way. It's the same way the folks at Texas A&M saw Tro, and they're like, all right, those numbers aren't great, but I like what I see.
I like the attitude.
Let's fix that. We can work with that.
We have really good coaches here. We could fix that.
Yep. So there's a lot of types of, getting the raw material in and see. Now that's the only issue, because they don't have this saying for nothing, the kind of the conversation of, old dog, new tricks. It's like, dog, if you're a 6-year dude, I mean, you kind of are who you are.
How adaptable can you be?
Yeah, I mean, you might be stuck in some of the ways that you have because you've been playing for so long and you've developed habits, good and bad, that might be very difficult to break at that stage in your career. So pluses and minuses, we'll see.
Because you've seen examples of both, right? Mm-hmm. Of guys that were older college players that go somewhere or transfer up, and it doesn't pan out for one way or another. Or maybe some flaw, like players that had a flaw that couldn't necessarily get fixed because it couldn't get taught, or at least get through to them. It might have been taught, but it didn't get through to them. But there's always your example of, this is, I don't even think an extreme example, just a high-profile one, of Bo Nix, right? Bo Nix had a lot of flaws at Auburn. He got ran out of Auburn, and he goes to Oregon. He plays for Will Stein, and he breaks the NCAA single-season record for completion percentage, and Oregon, is a game away, or a drive away, really, from a 4-team college football playoff, and he ends up becoming a Heisman finalist. Amazingly. And you would have never thought that. Now, he is the starting quarterback on the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And when he is playing at Auburn, we would have never thought that.
Not ever.
Ever. So sometimes it can be something small. A quarterback, it can be decision-making, right? If you can teach them how to make decisions or make things easier for them, maybe they can be in a position where they can thrive. Offensive line, maybe it can be a technique thing. Maybe it's hey, we think we can get you 20 pounds lighter and make you a little more mobile. Or I think in Seth Smith's case, it might be maybe get him a little bit bigger, right? Like we can get you in an SEC weight room and we can be able to put some weight on you and be able to get you in a position where you can succeed. And I think for a lot of those guys too, when you are portal shopping, that's a big thing. Before we get here, I do want to mention, you got a 2-for-1. Kelby and Drew Collins.
Yeah, that one confused me. Explain.
Kelby Collins, defensive lineman from Alabama, never played more than 20 snaps in a game in 2025, but he did get a sack against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. Drew Collins, edge rusher at Arkansas State, also never played more than 20 snaps in an individual game this year, but had four sacks in limited snap numbers.
Well, the big winner in that is obviously Mr. and Mrs. Collins.
Yes, congrats, Collins family.
You no longer have to split duties.
Nope.
Or however that was working out. Whoever had to go to Arkansas State one week and then Alabama the next week, you can just come on to Columbia. I'm sure they're very happy about that.
Winner, simple logistics and coordination.
Yes.
Not the winner segment, but it's in the early running for being a winner. Later brought to you by the Golden Spur. But coming up next, there's one team on campus that missed a golden opportunity over the weekend to get a winning SEC record and really change how we felt about them. But instead, old narratives are starting to persist. We'll tell you what happened at Colonial Life Arena over the weekend next here in the early game. All right. I'm not a weather guy, but I'm going to give you a weather report right now. Cold. That's it. Congratulations. It is cold outside, and you know it is cold outside. So today is the perfect day to hit up my friends over at Pro Swing, where you can still get your swings in, get your golf fix in, but you can do it indoors, and you can utilize Pro Swing's Golf Zone simulators, which are the coolest thing, right? I love playing at Pro Swing because of all the options that I have when it comes to courses I can play at, game modes. You can even bring the kids. They have kid game modes too. It's really fun, and you can do it indoors, right, where it's heated, where you don't have to layer up and have to withstand the elements. But there's a lot of things that Pro Swing provides too, like a free 30-minute swing evaluation, lesson packages for beginners, scratch golfers, kids, adults, you name it. So many reasons to hit up Pro Swing this winter or any other time. Go to ProSwingColumbia.com to book or call 803-592-3916 for membership. Against Georgia on Saturday, Lamont Paris and the South Carolina Gamecocks had a 12-point lead with 3.5 minutes to go in the first half. Well, they go to the halftime break with a 6-point lead. And at one point, about, 6-7 minutes left in the game, they end up having an 8-point lead. And it looked like they were playing well enough to be able to get a second straight conference win. Certainly for the first 32 minutes of the game, they played well enough to get that second straight conference win. That would have put them at 2-1 in league play. That would have been a win against what I think is a NCAA tournament team. I don't know if LSU is going to be. I doubt that they will, even though they played pretty well against Vanderbilt. But that was the opportunity that was there, and they put themselves in a really good position to do so, including making 7 of their first 9 shots at the rim. Well, they only made 2 of their last 9 shots at the rim. After shooting really well from the free throw line and getting there with regularity, they were 10 of 13 in the first half from the free throw line and finished 15 of 21 from the free throw line. They end up losing a 5-point game to Georgia. And it was an incredible missed opportunity for a team that really needed to take advantage of a home game against a team that was beatable. Was Georgia really good? Yes. Do I think Georgia will be about a 7-10 seed in the NCAA tournament? Probably. Would it have been a quad 1 win? I know it's a little early to start counting those, but these games count for those anyway. Yes. It just felt like a here we go again moment at CLA after you had plenty of opportunities to be able to make shots, get the looks you want, but not being able to put the ball in the basket. And the one time you really needed a stop, Eli Ellis gets caught on a screen. Meechie Johnson's maybe a step or 2 behind as the low man, or what some people call the tag man in a pick and roll situation. Give up a lob dunk. It was one of those gut punch games for a Gamecock men's basketball program that in the last 2 years has had a lot of gut punch games.
That particular play is, I think, the story of the game because we gave up the lob dunk and you could see it. You could see it happen and you're like, oh man, that's not going to be good. And then we didn't convert one. I don't know if it was the same possession or 2 possessions before. Meechie has the ball, pulls it back out, finds, and I can't remember who it was going to the rim, and they just miss at the rim.
I don't know if it was it Elijah Strong that missed that one? Yeah.
I think it was, and it was just right. It was right there at the rim where it could have been taken, and it could have been taken home. And those are the sort of things. But for me, I keep hearing everybody say it. I keep going back to the number. The number, I guess, the 30% number from threes. That's sort of the number that they need to be at, and they were at 29%. And I have to look squarely at Meechie, man. He was 1 for 8.
Yeah.
If this team is going to win, Meechie has to play better.
He does. He does.
And that's sort of kind of has to start and end right there.
Because he's tasked with doing a lot, right?
For sure.
He's definitely tasked with doing a lot in terms of running the offense because you don't necessarily have what you'd consider maybe a traditional true point guard.
And I don't see Meechie
better
that
suited
way.
As an off-ball guard. So he's tasked with maybe a little more than what he normally would be. However, it could still work if you're knocking down shots, right? And there's a little too much inconsistency. You know how we talked about offensive linemen, and we were talking about Seth Smith earlier, where he's got a really good grade on Pro Football Focus in terms of pass protection, but he gave up 31 pressures, but only a handful of them were converted to sacks. In some games, he had a really good performance. Some games, not so much. There was a lot of Jekyll and Hyde there. And we kind of likened it to the J.R. Smith drinking game that I concocted in 2016. You could do the same thing with Meechie Johnson and probably get similar results, right? You might be in for a wild night, or you might be just sticking to water all night.
I wonder if Meechie thinks about shooting as much as I think Meechie's going to shoot, because I see Meechie get to the logo and he just sort of gives like a look, and I'm like, don't you do it. Don't you do it. And
intrusive thoughts.
It
always
just feels like he's very like a split second away from launching at any moment. And that's cool if that's the game plan and if that's what he needs to do. I'm totally all right with it. But he's gonna have to make. He was 1 of 8, I believe. He's gonna have to make more threes if the team wants to be successful.
For sure, because there is a direct correlation in terms of how they shoot threes and how they win basketball games. But the saving grace has always been that the threat of them just shooting a ton of them is good enough for them to be able to open the floor up and be really successful from two, right? They've been a top 10 2-point percentage shooting team. Now they're outside the top 20 because of a 50% from two performance on Saturday. But until about the last 8 minutes, they were making about 60% of their 2-point shots. Again, if you get into the lane, you either need to score, get to the free throw line, or kick it out. Missing too many shots in the lane can be a killer, especially if you don't have a good offensive rebounding team, which they're not. They only grabbed a quarter of their missed shots on Saturday. And to give you an idea of what an average team does on a game-to-game basis in terms of percentage of their shots they miss, the average college basketball team grabs 31% of their missed shots. And this is a team that ranks 272 in offensive rebounding. It's not their thing, right? So when you get to the paint, you have to convert. You either convert or you have to draw a foul and get to the free throw line because you're still a top 10 free throw shooting team in America.
Okay.
Or kick it out for a three if somebody's wide open, because the best threes they get are the ones that are coming off of paint touches. You just didn't do enough of any of those things when the ball got in the paint to be able to win the game on Saturday, and the result is a 5-point loss.
Yeah, and as you stated, it sort of feels like you said, here we go again. This is going to be the same thing. Are they going to finish? Can they finish? Close game at the end, close but no cigar. And at a certain point, you want to see them get over that hump. But I'm just not sure if they haven't. Going back to Justin Hall, they haven't done it yet.
Yes.
And so we'll see.
Yeah, still some time to improve, but like we're at the point now where all these games matter the most, right? What you do in conference play matters the most, and you just can't leave too many opportunities like that on the table. It happened last year, right? How many close games against really good teams did we see this team play at Colonial Life Arena and just not be able to get over the hump, right? It happened against Auburn, where you had the team that was the number one team in the nation at the time on the ropes but couldn't hit free throws at the end of the game. You had Florida, the team that ended up winning the national championship, on the ropes, and you couldn't hold on to a double-digit lead because they started pressing you a little bit and you couldn't handle that press. You had a Texas A&M team that was a NCAA tournament team that came into your house. You had a lead, couldn't win it in overtime. There were just so many of those opportunities last year that you missed out on, and it just felt like we watched a rerun, right? If you ever turned on Ion Television and Criminal Minds is on, and you're like, oh, I haven't seen this episode, and you get 10 minutes in, you're like, oh, I have. Oh, the guy's MO is, attacking people that look like a family member or something like that. Oh, I remember this. It's kind of what it felt like sitting in CLA on Saturday. I thought it was something different. We get into the last 8 minutes of the game, and I realized I've been watching a rerun, and I could have been watching something fresh the entire time. Crimes were committed. Certainly, crimes were committed in the making of both of those in that analogy. But coming up next, and a little bit of a ode to Chicago, the early game is going to do a mea culpa segment featuring the Percolator.
It's time.
Whoa.
We'll
show you what we mean.
It's time.
Coming up next on the early game.
It's time for the percolator.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for the percolator.
Check your watch.
It's time for the percolator.
You know what time it is.
It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator. Percolator.
Oh, break it down. Because you know what? In an early game mea culpa segment in which the Chicago Bears erased a 21-3 deficit, and Jen Jensen's rocking her Bears shirt, and Caleb Williams makes the greatest yippee throw in the history of football to save their season, we figured we had to make it time for the percolator.
My God.
Preston Thorne, you requested this yesterday for us some little Chicago flavor.
Chicago activates when you hear the percolator come on. That is a huge Chicago anthem. It is Chicago, huge house music, dance culture, very big dance culture. And so it might be a little strange to the rest of the country for that song to be a thing, but the percolator is a huge, huge Chicago thing. And the algorithm saw fit to send me many folks in Bears jerseys doing the percolator yesterday. And what's even better is that the social media staff from the Chicago Bears saw fit to put maybe one of Chicago's national anthems. Maybe it's like "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" and the percolator. as far as Chicago anthems, those are very, very high. Very high on the Chicago anthem list. So if you want to do yourself a favor, you just go to YouTube, maybe type in like the percolator or the dance, the percolator, and you just see folks. It's such a cool dance because, I mean, you don't have to know how to do it. You just move your shoulders in a sort of to the beat. Yes, it's
In an aggressive manner.
very aggressive, very aggressive. But everybody has their own little style on it. But yeah, man, Chicago, big time day. The percolator was percolating around Chicago, I am sure. I would love to see, if we had like the big time analytics on Spotify or Apple Music and just saw the spike in percolating that happened in Chicago after that game. I'm sure it was tremendous.
Whoever is the artist that recorded that gets a lot of the residuals is going to get a really large check when it comes in the mail. I don't know how frequently those royalties come in, for artists that have their music on Spotify, but whenever it comes in next, it's going to be a little fatter of a check than it was about a week ago. Ah. Alex Bregman, yeah, Chicago Cub.
And like you said, and I guess geographically, it's really interesting. Like you say, that Indiana area is also, because there's no other pro team there, it's Bears folks, right? So all of that area are for the Bears, and it was really cool to see on my timeline yesterday. Like Chicago was having, and they deserve it. It's a great fan base.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like, man, they've been stuck in such institutional ineptitude for so long, and it shows that you can get a dude at quarterback, and you can get a coach, and things can change.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is true. Well, yeah.
Big controversy.
They kind of did all this despite the GM. Kind of.
Like the Big Ten's success right now, despite that same guy who is now the GM of the Chicago Bears.
Well, maybe we have to reevaluate. But it just shows that if you can get the right people in place, it can change.
Yeah.
You don't have to be stuck anywhere, especially in the NFL salary cap sport where things are designed to do that way. But if you hit on the quarterback and you go make the hire at coach, that's why both of those positions matter so much. We know quarterbacks matter, but I think we tend to think in the NFL because the athletes are so good, the coaches don't matter, but they do, man, because they set in place cultures of winning and or losing, and organizations follow those things. And so the Bears are on the right path.
The city of Chicago's seen a lot, right? Old town, a lot of history. Despite all the things they've seen, you know what they've never seen? A 4,000-yard passer for the Chicago Bears.
That's true.
And Caleb Williams got awfully close. He was 58 yards away.
That's true, because even in the Bears' successful years, they've never had a good quarterback.
The record for most passing yards in a season for the Chicago Bears is Eric Kramer in 1995. with 3,838.
Okay.
And Caleb
Okay.
Williams broke that this year. So this season is the
wouldn't have-
highest passing yard total in the history of the Bears, but they've never had that type of explosive passing game. The last couple times they played in the playoffs, we had the double doink.
Yep.
And then Jay Cutler just, I can't play. And then sitting on the sideline looking as interested as he always looks playing football. Yes. While Caleb Haney was out there fighting for his life on a football field and B.J. Raji scoring as many touchdowns as the Bears did in that game, that NFC title game. Those are your most frequent, or I guess recent Chicago Bears, memories in the playoffs.
Yeah, that B.J. Raji pick is very high in my greatest plays ever.
The greatest thick sixes ever seen.
One of the greatest.
Some say, in lore, it was the thickest of sixes.
And he did. Oh man, I got to go look it up now.
Just don't show Jen.
I'm sorry, Jen.
Even though that footage probably doesn't hurt as much after they.
And for that game to be against the Packers. Oh, sweet.
Winner, Jen Jensen. But coming up next, Indiana's getting some accusations. They're only winning because they're old, but did Carolina get old enough to be them? Well, we'll talk next. You know how many times, like on my show prep grid or anything else like that, I refer to the year as 2025 still? It takes me a couple weeks to get used to that it is a new year because the previous year just flew by so fast. Well, now that it's January, my friends at Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning have another promotion for you. So take advantage of their New Year sale. It's going on right now. Get 2 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $139. And when you mention my name, Elijah Campbell, here at 107.5 The Game, you'll get 2 rooms cleaned for free. Now, rumor has it, they'll only give it to you if you say I'm handsome. Just kidding. They don't. No one said that. However, it'd be nice if you did. But just mention my name, and you can get 2 rooms cleaned for free along with the 2 rooms that you're getting for $139. Take advantage of Zerorez's Zero Water technology and have your home fresh and clean for the new year. New you, new home. Schedule online now at ZerorezColumbia.com. Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we're going to break down age and experience in college football. But first, we do have a question on the Firehouse Subs text line. Aimed for Preston, and Preston has an answer. So thank you, Daryl, for adding this earlier in the show. Daryl says, the question is for Preston the educator. With these kids transferring school every year, has the college admission process for transferring been bypassed and just been thrown out of the window completely? It's hard to believe that you can transfer 4 to 5 times and remain academically eligible.
Great question. The short answer to your question is, yeah, kind of. Essentially, you have students who would transfer from one school to another or transfer from, tech to big city U or whatever the case is, and you always have the conversation of the question as old as time. Do my credits transfer? And inevitably, it's usually that, nah, you lost 20 credits or whatever whatever the case is. That's essentially how it's going to end up happening. And so the academically ineligible part is that they are remaining academically eligible, but many of them are not necessarily progressing towards on-time graduation. So, yeah, if you have gone to 4 different institutions in 5 years, it's going to be very difficult to get a certification from one of those institutions. So, yes, they are remaining eligible. They are taking classes. They are passing those classes. But as far as being degree tracked, that process has been delayed. And so we're still in the process of seeing the fallout from that. But what was the texter's name?
Daryl.
But Daryl, your suspicions and your hunches are correct. I don't think it's not good academically for many of the students involved.
I will say, from my personal experience, depending on the school that you are transferring to, they might not care about how high the grade is in general because they just want that money. I will say, I did transfer from one school to another while being on academic probation from the previous school.
Yeah, man, and a lot of things like this are fluid, I would say.
Yes. And also say I was not an athlete.
The admissions process is done by people, and unfortunately, some folks may get a nod while others don't. So there's a lot of things that go into that. But your overall hunch is that it's probably not the best for the quote-unquote the student athletes. You are correct.
And there are some schools, and it varies from school to school, and I think that's kind of what I've noticed too. It is varied from school to school in terms of the type of transfers you can bring in. Some schools have much higher requirements than others. I know we know of a school that you have to have a certain amount of hours already. Like, you can't just transfer after a year or 2. You have to have X amount of hours at a previous school or X amount of college credits to be able to transfer into this said school. And that's why recruiting there in the transfer portal actually is really difficult. And it might explain why they had a harder time with a head coach. But it explains a lot how it is for some places easier to get a lot of transfer portal players in. And for some places, there are more hurdles. And I think that kind of just varies from institution to institution.
Yeah, we could probably do an hour on this, but I'll just say the last thing I'll say is that the credit idea, if you haven't been in academics in a while, it's probably maybe different than you thought because a lot of these students come into college with so many credits, so they may have already stacked those, dual enrollment. There's a lot of different things that they have those opportunities, but I will state again that overall for the academic progress of many or most of them, I would say it's not beneficial. I think that's fair to say. As it wasn't Troy Smith. Who was it?
It was Cardell Jones.
As Cardell Jones said, we didn't come to play school.
Came to play football. And also from my experiences too, I know plenty of kids who went to college that weren't there for school and didn't necessarily finish with degrees either. Degrees in something else. But they're not incredibly interested in their studies.
Great question.
Great question. You know what? I love when we have a text immediately following that goes right into the point I want to go to, because unnamed texter says, question for Preston the Percolator.
Oh,
A man of many names this morning. Break it down and get those shoulders nice and loose. Did Indiana crack the code for having an average age of 23? Is it that simple? Is there any other teams that are close in the average range to Indiana?
it's almost like you read the grid.
Almost like you read the grid. Sir or ma'am, do you have access to our show doc? Because that's exactly what we wanted to find out. Now, I don't think it's as simple as that, because there are a lot of old teams. And is Indiana on the older side? Yes. You're not going to find many teams that are older than Indiana. However, when it comes to getting a lot of those old players, I think there's more to do with what you do with them when they're in the building and access to them. Because if you look at transfer portal class rankings for the last couple of years, or since Curt Cignetti's been there, a lot of those guys have been players that he brought from JMU or players from the group of five. Every other school in the country had access to them, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of schools in the transfer portal go for stars, big game hunting. Let's use LSU for an example, right? What did they do last year in the transfer portal? Patrick Payton from Florida State to add to their defensive line. Berrien Brown, a wide receiver from Kentucky, to add to their receiver room. Nick Anderson and Bauer Sharp, a receiver and a tight end, respectively, from Oklahoma. They went after the big names from the big programs. Didn't really pan out. They had every bit as much access to Elijah Surratt that Indiana had. You think if Brian Kelly 2 off seasons ago called Elijah Surratt or a couple of those guys at Indiana and said, hey, come play at LSU, they wouldn't take the money and go play for LSU? It was available for everybody else too. But they did get older, and I think that helps them, right? When it comes to being maybe the most prepared team in college football, having older dudes that are very seasoned playing college football that maybe take something like game prep maybe a little more seriously, or they understand what the importance is because they've been playing long enough to understand how important that scouting is, then maybe it helps you overall. But in terms of finding age, I went through a little study here. I couldn't find, it's hard to find specific ages for everybody. So I just did years removed from high school, right? And I want to see if South Carolina right now, with who they've brought in the transfer portal, is getting older or getting younger, right? So I looked at all the players that separated South Carolina that entered the transfer portal this year, and the average years removed from high school is 3.05 years, right? And if you go to the players that South Carolina is bringing in, which is 12 players compared to the 21 that have left, you're averaging 3.08 years removed from high school. So technically speaking, South Carolina in the transfer portal this year is getting a little bit older. And if you just assume everybody comes into college at age 18, then you're saying roughly the average age of the player you're bringing in is about 21 years old.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between 18 and 21. And then if you even get further, when you start looking at Indiana, I think Indiana, I didn't crunch the numbers myself, but I've seen numbers like their average age is like 23. And then so that's another 2 years. And it's not, yes, there's the physicality aspect, but I think more so is the mentality aspect. If you are a different person at 23 than you are at 18, from the fact that maybe you can handle coaching better, you might take, as you said, you might take preparation more seriously. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of the outside distractions at 18, while still there, they may not be as tempting at 23. You know, you may have a let me say this. At 23, you still don't know anything.
No.
You're still pretty dumb, but you're not as dumb as you were when you're 18. And so it's just a different ways that you can sort of coach and work with folks who are 22, 23. I can just give an example from my personal career. You know, I redshirted my freshman year. I ended up playing my senior year. I think I was 22 going on 23. We had a freshman that came in far superior athletically. He just wasn't ready to be a college football player yet. And so I ended up playing a lot of that year, and he would come in, and it was pretty clear, like, he's
a dude.
Yeah, he's going to be a dude. He's a dude right now, but I just understood football by that point. I had been around. I understood preparation and all those types of things. So there are a lot of factors that come into play. But getting guys. I mean, you just look at the team last year, the team that won 9 games. Who were some of the dudes on there? Old dudes.
Old dudes. Demetrius Knight, old dude. Kyle Kennard, old dude.
Tonka Hemingway, old dude.
TJ Sanders.
On and on and on.
Dude, not
older,
oldest,
not old, but
he's
older.
still a year of eligibility, but yeah.
Right. So you kind of there might be something to that, and I think there is the physicality, but I think more so the mentality aspect.
And in terms of just the type of old dude you get to, like there are old dudes who were in the transfer portal maybe because they're stubborn or there were issues with a coaching staff, and there's maybe an immaturity. I know 18-year-olds that are more mature than 35-year-olds, right? That there is people are so different, and painting with a broad brush can lead to some pretty inaccurate conclusions. But if we just look at some anecdotal stuff, there are some 18-year-olds that are just maybe a little more advanced, maybe a little more mature, in their years than some of their peers and people that are older than them. And I think that's what Chris brings up right here that I find to be pretty interesting on the Firehouse Subs text line. He said, Signetti said, we look for transfer portal players based on what you've done, not your potential. That ties in with my belief, and I know Preston believes this. Give me somebody that's one. Doesn't matter what level it is, high school, junior college, D2, whatever. And that's what Indiana's done. That's Kurt Signetti has said. He goes, we value the production over the potential. And if you look at the guys that they have brought in, look at a Pat Coogan, who was a center at Notre Dame, very productive. You look at all the guys at JMU that he brought with him, were very productive players on a team that went 11-1 in a regular season his last year at JMU at the FBS level, and brought them to Indiana with immediate success. And you find a player like Fernando Mendoza, who was very productive. He's not what he is right now, but was very productive at Cal, and be able to mold them into better players, right? There's potential in the production you have already to be better than what your production has been, but having a good high baseline of production is a really good starting place if you really believe in your coaching staff.
Yeah, and I mean, Frank Martin said this years ago when he was here at South Carolina. His favorite thing was he likes coaching old. And that was his thing. And you got to, and and I'm not saying they're the same, but I imagine there's some similarities between Kurt Signetti and Frank Martin. Just, you probably need to be pretty old and mature to be able to deal with that type of coach.
Yes.
Right?
They coach big boys.
They coach because they're not sugarcoating things.
Nope.
They are telling you like it is.
Not Willy Wonka.
They're not going to be a lot of pats on the back or hugs or smiley faces, reward points given out or something like that. So you need guys who are older who have been conditioned to take that coaching. And so Frank always said he appreciated older folks. And I would imagine Kurt Signetti, no-nonsense type of dude, he probably doesn't have a bunch of time to be dealing with just the natural things that come along with somebody being 18 years old.
Yeah, and there are plenty of old teams in college football that fell on their face this year. Penn State was old.
That's true.
Yeah,
so it's not just like let's just go get the old dudes.
Yeah,
that's not the thing. But that probably could be a benefit or a thing in your advantage if they have all things being equal.
It's certainly a plus, not a minus, right? But it's not the magic elixir. I think a lot of, if we want to really break down kind of how Indiana's done this, a lot of it is just the more simple fundamental parts of football and organization and preparation. Because Kurt Signetti said before, and I think it was like a coaching clinic, he doesn't keep his coaches past 6 p.m. They're not in the offices for 18 hours a day. But when they're there, they are going to be productive. There's no BSing. There's no horsing around. You're going to work. We're going to be organized, and we're going to squeeze so much into a little bit of time that we're not going to burn ourselves out, and we're going to have enough energy when we come to the building every day. And I think that's a simple but productive solution.
Yeah, and it's a significant shift in college athletics because there was a time where all things being equal, you would go with the young guy because you had more time with them. Now I think all things being equal, you go with the older guy because of all the factors that you just said.
Yeah, and it works. And that will it be a trickle-down effect? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing for the sport. It's just different, right? And it has allowed Indiana to be able to have that as part of the equation. Not the main thing, but it's part of the equation.
Last thing, there was some comparisons. They were saying like, Indiana's 23 years old. I think the average starting age for the Packers is like 25. And I want to make sure I'm on record that saying the Packers would beat the brakes
Yes.
off of Indiana, regardless of how close they were in age.
It would slap the taste out of their mouth. Coming up next, it's the early game morning meeting. We'll discuss the women's win and the big game they have coming up this week, and we'll get to our pal Ray on the phone lines next year in the early game. The Gamecocks women's basketball team cruised to a victory. Maybe wasn't their best offensive performance, but a win is a win, and it most importantly sets up a showdown that we have on Thursday. And we also have a former Gamecock who is making some incredible plays and moves in the NBA. We'll tell you what that is for this morning's morning meeting.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Always is.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
And before we get to the win at CLA yesterday, I did want to tap into this because Colin Murray Boyles is making some history with the Toronto Raptors. Last night, they beat the Sixers in overtime, 116-115. Colin had 17 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. He started the game and played 42 of the 48 minutes. He has become a regular starter for this team, and the Toronto Raptors are 24-16. That's good for 4th in the East right now. If the season ended today, they would be hosting a playoff series.
It just goes back to when they were talking about the roster construction of the current men's basketball roster, and they kept kind of like, well, maybe if Colin comes back, we'll hold the seat up. I was like, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, because from what I've been told by numerous sources, Colin really wanted to come back.
I hear you, Colin. That's awesome.
But, dog, you are an NBA player right now.
This chair's too small for you. You got to go.
And we got a lot last year of people saying that, maybe he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet. No, he was ready.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy that can guard any position on the floor, is incredibly efficient around the rim. He's 7 for 12 last night. And that stat line, while it may sound really impressive to you, let me tell you how impressive it is. This comes from Brett Usher, who covers the NBA. He says 17, 15, 3, 3, and 3 for Colin Murray Boyles in the win over Philly. First time in Raptors franchise history a player has reached or exceeded those numbers and those stats. First rookie to do it in the NBA since David Robinson in 1990.
He was good.
David Robinson's a Hall of Famer.
Anytime your name is listed in that category, it's a good thing.
You've done something. You've done something mightily impressive. And what he's been doing so far this year, he might not win Rookie of the Year because it's a really good rookie class. However, I can almost guarantee you he will be on the all-rookie team in the NBA. So, Colin Murray Boyles, for those who, if you haven't been keeping up, don't blame you. I don't know how many people are here are subscribing to League Pass to watch the Toronto Raptors on a nightly basis, but let me tell you right now, he's playing really well. At CLA yesterday, South Carolina gets a win over Georgia 65-43. Now they're expected to win that game by 20-plus points because Georgia, while I say improved as a program, they're making some subtle strides. Still not what they used to be in the 90s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, but making some steady progress right now. Still comes into a game at CLA and completely outmatched. And South Carolina didn't really play their best game offensively. If anything, I thought they looked pretty anemic at times on offense. It was a bad shooting day. They shot under 40% from the field, but Joyce Edwards is able to get 14. Medina Okai got 14 and 10 on the day. And despite having a negative assist-turnover ratio, they still found a way to end up winning by 20-plus because that's what Don Staley's teams do. We saw them do it, be able to get a double-digit win on the road at Florida, despite not maybe having their fastball on the offensive side of the floor or the defensive side of the floor. But what it really means, though, is we're setting up for a massive showdown on Thursday. And this is kind of our first look at it because we're going to talk a little more as the week goes on, as we get a little closer to the matchup itself. But on Thursday, Texas is coming into town.
Again.
How many times have we had to talk about South Carolina, Texas women's basketball matchups because they seemingly just play all the time, right?
And to be fair, I kind of like this is a purely basketball rivalry.
Yes,
right?
Purely.
Ultimate respect between Dawn and Vic Schaefer. The teams seem to compete very difficult, but there's no out. Not like say when we get to Valentine's Day, how there's a whole narrative around that.
Yes.
Right, but this is kind of just strictly a basketball thing, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we already have Vic Schaefer complaining about the schedule, about having to play at LSU on Sunday, then at South Carolina
I like Vic.
Thursday. I like Vic, but you know what? If we had if there were an Olympics for complaining about stuff in college basketball, my man's Michael Phelps.
Mark it down for later, but I want to take an over-under on how long Vic stays in the blazer.
Oh,
in the
man.
sport coat. He doesn't. Just mark it.
He sheds it pretty quickly.
Let's just mark it and let's see.
Yeah. Well, how fast into the game does Vic Schaefer keep the blazer on? Going to be a big-time matchup. Texas is coming off of a loss, so they did go to LSU yesterday and got beat. We're down by as many as 11 in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
And
I saw some clips out of context. I got it.
It is an angry Texas team. And so the element of angry Texas team that obviously that you played, played twice in the regular season, once played 4 times last year, played again in Las Vegas. In a calendar year, you played Texas 5 times, and now you get them here again. So there's familiarity. There's some pretty big stakes here, too, because you don't want to get that first SEC loss. You want to stay at the top of the SEC as long as you can. And it'd be a good resume boost to try to get a 1 seed.
You want to have the head-to-head in case it comes down to a coin flip again?
Boo. Dumbest thing that happened in 2025.
It happened.
But it happened, and I will remember that forever, is watching a coin flip before a press conference to determine what seed they were in the SEC tournament. Real quick, we'll go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Our pal Ray is on the line with us. Good morning, Ray. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. Good morning. I tell you, Vic and Mulkey, they must see some bad blood. Because at the end of that game, when Mulkey walked by Vic and Vic walked by Mulkey, they didn't even look at each other. I'm thinking there's maybe it goes back to her Baylor days, or they've been coaching so long, maybe something happened. But I was like, my goodness, they didn't even look at each other. But anyway, man, if you were an NFL person, this was a great weekend, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, it was a fantastic weekend. How many games were decided in the last 2 minutes?
And it seemed like it was a bunch of road warriors. It seemed like the road team kind of pulled them games out. But I want to talk about the Panthers a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about something else. So I got a couple hot takes. I know, imagine that from me, But Glenn Land, I'll tell you, Bryce Young had the drive of his young career. Wouldn't you say so, Preston?
Absolutely.
And you know what? If I'm David Tepper, now if I was David Tepper, I'd be a very rich dude, of course. But if I'm David Tepper, I'm having some conversations with my head coach and my defense coordinator because I have never seen such a weak prevent defense in my life. I mean, they got the ball. The Rams got the ball 3 minutes. You got Stafford, your quarterback. They got 3 timeouts. I don't even think they had to use a timeout. And the underneath coverage zone, whatever they're playing, was so wide open. I mean, it's like the Panthers were giving them 10 to 12 yards. And so it was like the Rams realized, we're going to score too quick. So they kind of slowed it down, knowing they had that 10 to 12-yard buffer there, And the Panthers didn't bring any type of pressure whatsoever. And I think the defensive coordinator owes the team an apology. That's all I got to say after watching that. And the other hot take I got, I know that quarterback for Oregon is a very good quarterback, or the NFL wouldn't have him listed where he is. But the sample size I saw, I know it was only 2 games, I wouldn't even say he looked pedestrian. He did not have 2 – he had probably his 2 worst games of his career at the most inopportune time. And also, I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Ray, we're up against a break right now, so I'll respond to those 2 things. We got to hit a break right now, but appreciate you calling as always, my man. We'll talk about Bryce Young and Dante Moore with what he just brought up there in the call, and we'll also talk about what the Gamecocks have to do, if anything, on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to the transfer portal next here in the early game. There are a lot of things in life that can be weighing you down or maybe keeping you to lose some sleep at night or keeping you up at night and losing sleep. Well, if those things are tax issues, which can be hard to talk about, and it can be really difficult to get out of that pesky IRS maze, well, I have a solution for you, and that is giving my friends, the Ecton Law Firm, a call. 803-771-9800. One of my favorite things about the Ecton Law Firm is that when you call them, you can set up a free consultation, right? And that free consultation is the beginning point to a journey of getting closer to a worry-free life and escaping a lot of those tax issues that you might be experiencing, whether they're personal income tax issues or their business tax issues, right? They're incredibly versatile, and they've worked with a ton of different cases, a ton of different people, and different types of businesses here in South Carolina, and that is what makes them perfectly qualified to handle whatever your case is. Again, that number is 803-771-9800. You can always visit them at ectonlawfirm.com. That's ECTONlawfirm.com. Obviously, South Carolina needed to address the offensive line in the transfer portal because that's where a majority of your losses came from when it turned in terms of players that were eligible to come back and did not. Well, that's been the big emphasis, and you've added a ton of offensive linemen, right? Hank Purvis, never nervous Hank Purvis from Purdue. Carter Miller from Central Florida. Emmanuel Poku from East Carolina. Dane Arnett from Ferris State. Seth Smith from Northern Arizona. By my count, that is 5 offensive linemen. Oh, and our boy from NC State, Jacarius Peak, 6. That is 6 offensive linemen that you were able to get in the transfer portal. But what about the defensive side of the ball? Because you lost some key pieces there. Now, obviously, getting Dylan Stewart back is the best news that you could have gotten for your defense in this offseason, and that was clearly objective number 1. But Jalen Kilgore has declared for the NFL draft. I don't know if I've seen if Brandon Cissé officially done it, but he is projected to be a high draft pick in the NFL draft. He will probably be the highest selected Gamecock in this year's draft. Miles Norwood in the secondary, leaving. You have some graduation stuff like Brian Thomas Jr., some guys that have run out of eligibility. But you got your linebackers back, your main starting trio of linebackers like Sean Murphy, Justin Okoronkwo, Fred J.R. Johnson. But it leads me to this, right? Because there were some defensive additions. Kelby and Drew Collins and Drew Collins from Alabama and Arkansas State, respectively, are joining. Tamiwa Durajai, I think that's how you might say that. Tamiwa Durajai.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get the pronunciation. I mean, we're gonna have to get the audible on that one. But yes,
put an asterisk in it. TD, as we'll call him. Boy, TD, defensive lineman from Illinois, who was pretty productive. 18 tackles, 0 missed tackles, and 2 sacks, which is my favorite part, is the 0 missed tackles part, considering how many games he played. Had a run defense grade of 80.7, a tackle grade of 82.3, and a pass rush grade of almost 70. A solid addition. But those are the type of guys that you've brought in so far defensively. What I wanted to pose as a question was, what else needs to be done on the defensive side of the ball? Or if we feel like we're already in a pretty good shape, because you also have a good recruiting class that does include Julian Walker, who, according to Rivals, impressed the most of anybody in his All-American game and practices here in the past week.
I think that's going to be the contingent question for the class is, can Julian Walker come in and be an impact player immediately? It's sounding like that's going to be the case. Because if that's the case, then maybe some of these portal pickups become depth pieces and they become rotational guys, which is fine. But even so, we'll call him TD for now until we get the audible.
Our boy TD.
Until we get the pronunciation on that. For instance, all the measurables are there, but you know how I feel about measurables. All the measurables are there. And I don't know if it's a red flag, but there is something goes on my mind. I believe it's his 4th school.
Yes.
So he's definitely on the U-Haul All-American.
He is U-Haul All-American.
So then you got to start asking questions. Why? What happened? What was the reason why you were going from each school to school? And to be honest, in this current day and age, if he was to say to me, I got offered more NIL at the next spot, that'd probably be the best possible answer for me.
Right.
I'd be like, all right, cool. That's the game you're playing. No problem. This is what we're doing here. But if it was the situation where it's like, I didn't get along with the coaches here, and then this was there, and then that was there, I'd be like, all right, what's going on with that? So when I hear that you've been to 4 different stops, I need to know the reasons as to why.
Right. And sometimes it could be, again, we liken the transfer portal kind of to a swimming pool. Sometimes you can jump into the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're pushed into the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. If he is a jumper into the deep end of the pool, then it's probably because he is moving up, right?
If you've moved up, if you've increased your stock and your opportunities, okay.
Yeah, I can accept that as being, a player that I'm excited for. Clearly the production's there, and he has been more productive with each stop he's gone to. That is something. Yeah.
There's something there.
And that's why when it came to evaluating offensive line, we did that kind of blind resume exercise last week when I looked at grades. Now, again, you can always take Pro Football Focus grades with a grain of salt. I get it, but I do take them into account because they are people that do go through a rigorous training process to be able to watch film, and they look for certain things. And while they're not going to know everything and they're going to operate without the fullest of context, it is a trained eye that I take into account at least a little bit. And when it comes to improvement from one year to the next, I like to see where they were the year prior and where they were after. And if there's a trend going up, then you can look at that and say, okay, well, they are improving from stop to stop, and they are a work in progress that is progressing and not regressing over the course of their careers.
Yeah, PFF is a flawed system, but everybody's on the same system.
Yes.
So at least you have a control here. So I don't agree with, to that point, I think they're missing a lot of context. How do they know the assignments? What is going on? But that being said, everybody's getting judged by that, so that's what we'll go by.
Yeah, and while it is flawed, again, they all play by the same rules, all the same expectations. And there are some guys you can watch and clearly say, oh, yeah, you got worked in that rep. And some where the scheme isn't publicly known, and there's some context needed. But if it's really bad, then I think it's fair to say they were really bad. If it's really good, it's fair to say they were really good, which is why a lot of the guys in the middle, you have to kind of take into account other maybe statistical categories or context. But when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, though, I don't know. I think I would be still in the market for one more productive edge rusher just to be able to introduce an element of competition in that room, because we talked about it last year. What was one of the most important things we wanted to know going into 2025 was how productive will the opposite edge rusher from Dylan Stewart be, and can they take enough advantage of the one-on-one matchups they're going to get because of the attention that Dylan Stewart is going to command to be able to be productive, a lot like Kyle Kennard. One of the reasons why the defense in 2024 was able to be as good as it was because Kyle Kennard did a lot of winning at the line of scrimmage when he got one-on-ones, and teams that were focusing so much on Dylan Stewart, they can't go chip block Kyle Kennard. So if Kennard's winning the battle over there at the left tackle position, you are in for a recipe to have a very disruptive pass rush. Brian Thomas Jr. did a really good job of that last year, and I don't think the pass rush was really the issue. And the defense, I think, performed to expectation or better last year. And a lot of that came from Brian Thomas Jr.'s ability to get to the quarterback and win those one-on-ones. Well, Dylan Stewart's coming back, so I guarantee you every team that Carolina plays will have that same attention on him. Can one of these guys that you bring in, whether it's Julian Walker, whether it is Drew Collins, be good enough to be able to take advantage of those matchups? That's big. That's a big one for me.
That's what you're trying to figure out. And I was just trying to look it up. I believe the Gamecocks were in on the portal recruiting of Chaz Coleman from Penn State.
They were close. Lost a heartbreaker.
He went to Tennessee.
Followed Jim Knowles.
There was a situation. He went to Tennessee. We were hoping maybe our culture would bring him here, but also his coach from Penn State would be, he was coming here with him, but he ends up choosing Tennessee. So they were in on a pretty big-time guy, but as the portal works, they didn't land that one.
I'd still like to see maybe one more defensive back, too, just to give yourself maybe some insurance, because that's where you're losing a lot of really good production. I think Brandon Cisse was awesome last year. I think very highly of Jalen Kilgore, and whatever NFL team drafts him, I think is getting a really good one. But I would like to see maybe one more player in that secondary to just, again, if anything, introduce an element of competition going into next year. This might have been the wildest wild card weekend in the NFL in recent memory. How many games did we have this past weekend where the team trailing at the 2-minute warning won? It was multiple games. I need to get Preston's take on some of them, because Preston Arreston Wild Card NFL Edition is coming up next. Boy, did the NFL put the Wild in Wild Card Weekend.
NFL said, college, you've been doing some things, but let us show you why we're the king.
Panthers-Rams, first game. The team that was winning at the 2-minute warning lost the game. Bears-Packers, the team that was winning at the 2-minute warning lost the game. Jags-Bills, the team that was winning at the 2-minute warning lost the game. 49ers-Eagles, the team that was winning at the 2-minute warning, won the game, but the team that was losing had the ball in the red zone with a chance to win the game. And then, of course, Chargers-Patriots is the only real mismatch last night because, the Chargers offensive line. Yeah, it turns out losing Rashawn Slater at the beginning of the year and Joe Alt in November kind of does a number on what your ceiling is as a team.
Put Justin Herbert on fraud alert.
I'm not there yet.
I'm not there yet. I'm just saying alert.
Alert, yes.
It's a
watch, not a warning.
Fraud watch, not warning.
Heavy fraud watch.
Fraud
Yeah.
watch.
The conditions are
That's
ripe.
all I'm saying. Fraud watch, not
They
warning.
are ripe for fraud watch. But that made for an incredible week of Preston or Reston.
All right, let's go.
Number one, Bryce Young proved he's the franchise quarterback for the Panthers despite the loss against the Rams. Reston. Oh, okay.
I like Bryce. I think he's solid. I think he's the quarterback moving forward. Does that mean when I hear franchise, I'm thinking like a guy that can really get you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's
Definition
that,
of Fury.
but I think he's good. I think he's solid, and I think he's better than serviceable.
Even more important, because this is the standard in which I apply to every rookie quarterback contract that is expiring. Because that second
That's
contract
good.
is
Yep.
a lot of money,
Yep.
right?
I like this.
But there's a heavy risk of going back into the draft and drafting a quarterback. You're kind of at the mercy of whether or not it's a good quarterback draft. You're kind of at the mercy at just who's available, right? And the most dangerous word in quarterbacking in the NFL is potential. So that's why I've implemented the Derek Carr test. If your rookie contract quarterback is better than Derek Carr, you sign them to the money. If they are worse than Derek Carr, you're better off going into the draft. Does Bryce Young pass the Derek Carr test to you?
No.
Then rightfully so. Then you would go back. I would say you should go back to the drawing board.
I think he's good, though. But I also thought Derek Carr, but I think that's why this is such a great test. Because it's dead set on the middle. I'm like, I don't think so.
If your quarterback is Derek Carr, then I have no answer for you. Good luck. May God be with you. Flip a coin. Preston or Reston? The Bills over the Jags was an experience win.
Ooh. Preston. I'd also say you can't fake desperation.
Yeah.
The Jags are
can't.
motivated, but the Bills know that this is a very crucial moment in their trajectory. The window could close if they don't get it done now. So I think maybe not, experience, but also desperation. They had to get that done.
Preston or Reston, the play of the weekend was Caleb Williams' fourth down, yippee, throw to extend the drive and win the game.
Maybe, man. One of the best throws we've seen when you take everything into context, the time, the play, the playoffs. It's up there.
Because that was on the money.
I will be revisiting Caleb Williams during Thorns, Buds, and Roses.
Now, maybe more significant. Remember the play before that? It's 4th and 3 as opposed to 4th and 8. But the Bears have a false start, which negates the snap that goes behind Caleb Williams. He flinches a little bit, and then Caleb Williams calls for the ball, snaps it. It's a roller that goes behind Caleb Williams. If that play was just negated and you didn't have that false start, we're not talking about the Bears moving on and winning. But the fact that the center did false start before that bad snap gave them a chance for Caleb Williams to make that throw.
Boaz is like, see, it can happen.
It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing I could do.
It can still happen, Elijah. Take that.
Yeah, not his best game. Olin Kreutz is not walking through that door
It's true.
anytime soon. Preston Arrest and Kyle Shanahan gives the 49ers the best coaching advantage of anyone in these playoffs.
Resting.
Oh, still not buying it.
I think Kyle is good. No, I mean, I use the word good. Kyle is a superb play caller. Sometimes when it gets tight, though, and I'm not even talking 28-3. It just sometimes he just can't finish the game. And I was looking at somebody pointed this out on the internet. It feels like a lot of those Shanahan, his tree, kind of fall into the same category. Superb play callers.
At LaFleur.
Exactly. They get to the end of the game and maybe they just can't finish.
I will say what he's done with this team.
Now, Sean McVay, I'll give you that. Sean McVay, Preston.
You'll give that to Sean McVay. I think for this year, I would give it to Shanahan because of how many players they have lost.
It's true.
And the fact that they were even a game away from being the number 1 seed is absurd at this point. And for a defense that's also lost a ton, Robert Saleh deserves a lot of credit for what they did yesterday in terms of stopping the Eagles' run game, keeping them out of an end zone and make them settle for field goals. Last one, though, Preston Arreston, real quick. The Texans hold the Steelers' offense to under 16 points tonight.
Preston. I'll take that. We'll see, but I'll take that.
We talked about fraud watch for Justin Herbert. Barbecue chicken watch. D'Amico Ryans and the Texans defense on the Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Preston, however, I don't know if that means it's a win, though.
Ooh. Oh, we're going to get a Preston Thorne type football game if we've ever seen one. 2 hours down, 1 to go. We're talking Gamecocks next. The early game, third and long hour starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. He's Randy Young in the video control studio here at Studio 803. And we're talking Gamecock offseason because, yeah, South Carolina didn't play an actual football game over the weekend, but I think you can consider them winners because of some of the additions they were able to get in the transfer portal over the weekend, because I think you got some productive players. I think you were able to get some guys that maybe have potential to get better. Most importantly, you have a lot of experience, and you addressed a lot of need. Emmanuel Poku, interior offensive lineman from ECU, who did not give up a sack last year in almost 500 pass block snaps. He's got 4 years of experience. Guard, offensive lineman from Ferris State, Dane Arnett. That's 3 years of experience for a guy that was playing for a winning program. You got a running back, Sam Dixon from Ohio State. Only 3 snaps last year, 3 carries for 9 yards and a touchdown against Grambling State. Seth Smith, a 4-year college guy, left tackle in Northern Arizona. 4 sacks surrendered last season with a high run block grade on PFF. Wide receiver Nitro Tuggle from Purdue, we talked about a lot last week. 34 catches, 500 yards. TD from Illinois, apparently he goes by Tommy. We found that on the Firehouse Subs text line, so shout out to whoever told us that on the text line. Defensive lineman from Illinois who did not have a single missed tackle per PFF last year and has a run grade of over 80. And then Drew and Kelby Collins. Kelby came from Alabama as a defensive lineman, had a sack against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. And then Drew Collins, an edge rusher from Arkansas State. So a lot of players that you got in that I think addressed a few needs. And a lot of guys with at least a plethora of college football experience, because a lot of talk has been about Indiana. One of the reasons why they've been making this jump is because of the element of adding experience to the roster. Emmanuel Poku has played college football. Is 4 years removed from high school. Dane Arnett, 3 years. Sam Dixon, 2. Seth Smith, 4. Nitro Tuggle, 2. TD, 4. Drew Collins, 2. Kelby Collins, 3. So that's an element of experience that I think you've gotten to the team to make them a little bit older, while also bringing in a couple of guys in positions of need who have been productive college football players.
So if I'm a fan, I'm probably, I mean, you might be a sicko, but I'm probably not going to go back and be watching, Ferris State cut-ups from October.
Salute to you.
You might. If that's you, I appreciate you. Would I be wrong to be in wait-and-see mode here, or should I be getting excited about this?
I think there should be an element of wait-and-see mode with some of these guys. I'm excited at the fact that they've done such a good job during this portal season of at least addressing the positions of need. I mean, we talk about the offensive line a lot this year and about how that's really held back your offense from reaching what its potential was. Again, if we want to use examples from the season, I think the LSU game was the quintessential example as to why your offensive line held the offense back, right? It cost you a game. It cost you the opportunities that your defense was able to give you in that game. And then you lose a lot of those guys in the transfer portal. And again, we've had this discussion of whether or not building an offensive line almost completely through the portal. Now you are retaining Shed Surratt. You are retaining Nolan Hay. And you did get Darius Gray, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country out of high school. So he's going to have to play some big snaps as a freshman. But you look at the players that were experienced that you did lose. Obviously, Josiah Thompson, transfer portal. Tree Babalade, going to play at Nebraska. Trovon Ball, going to play at Texas A&M. You lost the transfers from last year with Rodney Newsome, Boaz Stanley, Nick Sharp. Kason Henry is going to be playing at Louisville. It's a lot of departures and a lot of production that, A, you need at the offensive line position to begin with, and B, you're going to have to just replenish the room to have, a team to throw out there on Saturdays. I think with the Jacarius Peak signing, him being the number 1 offensive lineman available in the portal was big, because that's a guy who's got good experience and has improved or impressed a lot of people with his talent at the P4 level. So I'm kind of one of those, Preston. I'm mixed in with some emotion of excitement and also a little bit of caution to wait and see, because offensive line is such a position group that requires really good chemistry. Your Joe Moore winning offensive lines have great chemistry. Sometimes the communication factor between a group of 5 strangers can be the thing that takes a talented group of 5 guys and makes them underachieve. So those elements give me a little caution and a reason to kind of want to wait and see. But at the same time, I like the aggressiveness in the portal, and I like a lot of the pieces that they have brought in. And I think with some of the higher upside guys, it's kind of like a Carter Miller or a never nervous Hank Purvis and Jakarius Peak. I like what you have started with, along with some of the players that might be good players, but might not be good enough to even get into the starting five.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I think for me, as I was thinking about it, I think I'm more so in wait to see mode on the players, just because if I haven't watched you game by game, I mean, I know you're 6'5", 360. I get that you were a 4-star. That's cool, but I need to know what you did on the field. And if I haven't seen it, I just haven't seen it. But what does give me a little bit of hope and a little bit of optimism is that there's a new coach, there's a new system, and there seems to be there will be a new emphasis on how they play offensive line, because last year wasn't working. It wasn't working for years. And so it's very difficult to throw a fish in a polluted pool and tell them to swim. That wasn't going to work. No matter who they brought in last year, the whole thing was rotten. And so now we're getting a fresh start. And so to me, that's a little bit more exciting, and that would give me a little bit more potential. But if you're out there listening and you're like, I'll wait and see, I don't blame you.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too, that kind of ties everything in together, and it's an important element to this. The offense that you're running in 2026 will look different than 2025 because, A, of the new offensive coordinator, and B, we've seen what that offensive coordinator has done at a place like Arkansas with a quarterback of similar prototype as Lenore Sellers. I think style of play here matters a lot, too. We can look at how many sacks a certain player has given up, what their run block grade is, pass block grade, but not get the full story in terms of why they're being brought to campus, right? You're going to be playing a lot more up-tempo. Kendall Briles loves to play up-tempo. The offensive line that you bring in, those players have to be able to move, right? Your center especially. I think one of the things that they probably looked at when evaluating Carter Miller from Central Florida is, all right, how fast can he get on the ball, right? How good is he getting out in space and being able to get to the right spot to make a block on this player to be able to create some room for the running back? How mobile are they, right? There are a lot of things that you can look at as an element of fit that became a necessity whenever you did change offensive coordinators and you're having to build an offense kind of in their image.
I always go back to that because that one of the analogies that I like to think about, and this is an easy way to think about it, is, when you walk past a lake and you see a dead fish, you say, what's wrong with the fish?
Right.
When you walk past the lake and you see 50 dead fish, you say, what's wrong with the lake?
Oh, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So the offensive line, there wasn't one of them that were bad. All of them were bad.
They're bad as a unit. Yes.
Right. And so you have to start saying, well, maybe it wasn't just this thing. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe there was something overall that was not working. They've replaced that. They've changed that. And so I do think that's worth looking forward to.
I'm also kind of intrigued with Nitro Tuggle as a player, too. Wide receiver from Purdue, if you're talking about other position groups. Because you did lose a couple players from the wide receiver room, I think it was important to maybe add another body or two. You lost Vandrevis Jacobs. Looks like he might be going to, I guess, Miami is the place that I think I've seen him kind of attached to.
I think that's done.
Yeah, you think that's done? Yeah, which would be a big pickup for them. And then Brian Rowe Jr., who I know that coaching staff was really fond of, especially when it came to what they were evaluating in camp and a lot of the potential that he had. He was part of a very large recruiting class at that position going into last year. I think you need to replace those guys with productive players. Jaden Gibson from Oklahoma, there's the injury concern, but he is a deep threat guy, a big body, maybe somebody you can use in the red zone. But Nitro Tuggle is interesting because there's an element. He's still young, right? So there's still a lot of potential there, but caught 34 passes last year, 500 yards. But the idea that he's picking up almost 15 yards per catch, that his average depth of target was 14 yards, like he was a deep threat guy. Now, he did have 7 drops, which was 17% of his targets. Something that can be worked on, right? That's Mike Furry's job. That's why you're paying him the money, is to be able to make sure that drop number for someone like Nitro Tuggle, who clearly can get himself open down the field, goes down, right? And help your vertical passing game. But 81% of his snaps were out wide. 18% were in the slot.
Okay, so you answered one of the questions I was going to ask, because I was saying for a simpleton that's not going to go watch film, I just need to know what's going on with him. I hear Nitro, and I automatically think slot guy, but that's not true.
Yeah, predominantly on the outside. Yeah.
And there's no scientific reason why I think that. I just hear Nitro, and I think shifty. I think a dude that can get in there and make some stuff happen.
Has an extra gear, if you will.
Yes, but that's not the case. Do you have his measurables anywhere there?
I can pull them up.
We can pull that up really quickly. Just because I'm always a big proponent of building out wide receiver rooms and having different types of receivers in your room so that you have access to all the things that a wide receiver room needs to be able to get done.
So per PFF, he is 6'1", 195.
Okay, so he's average athlete wide receiver, not necessarily smaller, shorter, and not necessarily Nick Harbor. And he's fine. He's right in the middle.
Yeah,
and that's cool.
He's kind of in the middle on the size spectrum there.
Cool.
We'll go to Hank on the not Firehouse Subtext line. We'll go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6100. Hank is on the line with us. Good morning, Hank. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning. And then we get a defensive tackle from Georgia also early in the portal
They did.
range. Yeah, so, it's another big body in this side on defense. But I tell you, when you talk about the offensive linemen, I kind of think about how early in a couple weeks ago, Preston, you said you'd like maybe the guy that has a lot of production and upside from a lower level than the guy that's been at the upper level but for some reason hadn't gotten it done. The thing I like about some of the offensive line guys they brought in yet, and I'm a kind of a wait and see, but also if I was going to be an optimist, the big tackle from East Carolina, East Carolina ran that kind of attacking offense because their offensive coordinators headed to Ole Miss. But one of the offenses that we were kind of looking at going after because of what they did, so it kind of would seem that guy would understand probably what Kendall Brow's offense is about and what you have to do to get that offense moving. So that kind of gives me a little bit of, I guess, if I was going to be positive, a little bit of positivity. And then even the guy from Ferris State, was blocking for, at a time, another guy from Ferris State that we probably all know because we just saw that guy almost get Ole Miss to the national championship.
Tore it up in the playoff. Yeah,
So,
tore it up.
Yeah. And so you're talking about when you block for a quarterback that's athletic, sometimes you have to understand if you're able to string and give him just a second or two, he can either do something with his arms or give him an open spot with his legs. So it seems like the coaches are looking for a specific type of offensive lineman. And this is probably the first time we've had a offensive coordinator, offensive lineman match in terms of doing that, because it seems like through the first 4 or 5 years, we've always had the line coach and then we brought in an OC. And the OC, it seems like the line has been coaching the same type of scheme for 3 or 4 years through 2 or 3 different OCs. So that's just where I am, and I'll hang up and hear what y'all say.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the call, Hank. And Hank, you made a really good point about Emmanuel Poku that I just haven't really kind of pieced together yet about how well of a fit that might be. The offense East Carolina ran is kind of similar to what Kendall Briles wants to do, and just in terms of what the tempo is, right? That was an offense in general that was incredibly productive. And obviously, John David Baker, the offensive coordinator there, is going to be the next offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. They even had him on the sideline during the playoff to assist with coaching duties, right? That's what they thought of him and what they thought of that offense. And Emmanuel Poku, as an interior offensive lineman, was a big part of that. And again, in that system, didn't give up a sack last year. A lot of reason for optimism mixed with maybe some caution, which I wouldn't blame anyone.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that point. That's a great point.
Yeah. We appreciate the call, Hank, as always. Reg, we'll hold on to you. We got to hit a break, but we'll get to Reg on the other side as well as react to what happened with the men's basketball team in Georgia. We're talking portal, talking basketball loss at CLA, and what that means for the rest of the season coming up next year in the early game. Flag on the play because somebody had a little bit of a dyslexic episode when reading the show grid. Because Thorns, Buds, and Roses is right now. We'll reset on the Gamecock Transfer Portal editions and what happened in the last 8-ish minutes at CLA between Georgia and South Carolina in men's basketball. But first, we'll get to Reg on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Reg's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Reg. Welcome to the early game.
Morning, guys. Morning. Can y'all hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a little bit of why I think we're going to have some hope with the offense. And Preston, I love when you do your kind of like dumbing football down for the average listener. And I can kind of do that a little bit with this. So the veer and shoot, it has the pass game concepts are based on the air raid, and then obviously the veer is triple option. Both of those styles of offense are more offensive line friendly. It does put a lot more on the quarterback for sure because they're reading just like a pass play even when they're running the ball. But it makes it where there's not lengthy pass plays. There's more pre-snap read for the quarterback than post-snap. So you're not going to be standing back there for 7 seconds and asking guys to do something that they probably can't do real well in college. So just overall, this offense, that's the biggest thing for me is it's a more offensive line friendly offense. Quicker, everything. Run game, you're given so many options, path of least resistance on just about every play. That's the best part about it. So, I haven't heard anybody else mention that. I think that's a lengthier explanation, but I don't think we have time for that, or you guys don't. But it's definitely more offensive line friendly, both run game and pass game. So that's what everybody should be looking for, and it puts more weight on the best player on our team, which is Lenore's. And I think he can for sure.
Bingo. Yeah, I think that last part, I think Reg walked it off with the best part. Appreciate the call as always, Reg.
Great call, Reg. We appreciate it anytime. Anytime we got somebody that has O-line knowledge,
yes,
please do not make yourself a stranger because it's so rare that any of us understand what's happening up there.
Because it's such a technical position, right? And it's taught in so many different ways, too, that instruction for one player could be one thing and the casual observer can be like, oh, well, you messed up, right? But what I liked about Reg's call the most is the idea that recruiting to this offensive line system and the system itself, which can be inherently friendly to offensive linemen, can help out Lenore Sellers. And if you can make 16 as comfortable as humanly possible, then you can finally maybe see more of that potential that we've seen from Lenore. So we see maybe more of 2024 Lenore Sellers than we did of 2025. And that's going to be a big deal for this Gamecock team next year if they want to be able to really get out of the SEC cellar.
Mark this down because I want to come back to something that Reg was talking about, the idea of pre-snap reads versus post-snap reads, because I do think that is a significant difference, as he stated, that will be during the difference between this offense and our previous one.
Yes.
We'll come back to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Great call, Reg.
Especially in an era in which defensive coordinators are getting better at disguising things. That is a big element of it. But without further ado, it's Monday. It's the third hour, so it's time to get a little bit of Outcast. It's Thorns, Buds, and Roses.
It's time for Thorns, Buds, and Roses with Preston Thorn on the early game. 107.5 The Game.
All right, Elijah, we're going to have an NFL-focused Thorns, Buds, and Roses here. There were some great games over the weekend, some really fun football. Not my favorite weekend of football because next weekend is my favorite football.
The divisional round?
Divisional round is the one. The NFL playoffs are box office regardless, and they only kind of get better each week, but I love divisional round. Wild card is cool. Divisional round is better. Hopefully the results go that way. That being said, the Bills will be making their way to the divisional round. They won't see Lamar. They won't see Patrick Mahomes. They will actually make it. But my beef with the Bills is that they have this Septar playing quarterback, a cyborg, if you will. He doesn't need any protection. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He runs like a literal deer, horse, whatever you want to call it.
Sneaky athletic.
Yeah, way athletic. And they want to protect him. They're still trying to give this guy the benefit of the doubt of being a quarterback. And all I'm saying is, I just feel like Josh Allen shouldn't be able to run the tush push. He's above the weight limit, size limit for tush push. It's okay for the little quarterbacks, but he should not be able to do it because he's too big, man.
Kyler Murray should be allowed to have like 5 people behind him.
Kyler, you're cool.
Catapult him over the offensive line.
No problem. I have no problem with Kyler Murray running the tush push. But Josh Allen is, sometimes he's literally, offensive lineman aside, the biggest person on the field. Like, he's bigger than some of these edge dudes.
He could play edge, yeah.
He could. He should, maybe. We'll see. Maybe after he's finished, maybe when he no longer has the fastball as a quarterback, he just goes and plays edge.
Just messing around like Michael Jordan playing baseball.
Yeah. The 10-yard tush push, I don't like it. Get that out of here, Thorns. Now to my B is for not Buds, it's for Bears. And it's for Ben. Ben Johnson. He's here. He might have be the guy that we thought he was. Remember they kept saying, man, this guy, the OC from Detroit, he's going to be really good. Why is he not getting any jobs? Why is he not taking any jobs? He waited. He took his time. He didn't jump when he was just had the first job offered to him. And now he has this job with the Chicago Bears. And I love it. Good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. Great football slogan. That is a football slogan.
Life slogan.
What a great slogan. I love it. We got a chance to peek into the locker room. The dudes are bought into what he's doing. He seems to have that organization. And as I said earlier, it just goes to show that even a program, an institution like the Bears can be changed around rather quickly with the right people in place. And that leads me to my rose, which is not a rose. It's an olive branch.
Ooh.
I would like to present an olive branch to Caleb Williams because I saw you painting your nails. I saw you crying in your mother's lap after a loss. I immediately wrote you off. You cannot be my franchise quarterback, sir. I don't like it. My older millennial brain could not compute how this could be the guy. Also, you have to make some very interesting fashion choices.
Very experimental, if you will. Maybe the nicest way of putting the fashion choices.
All of that aside, dude can ball, man.
That throw on 4th down is one of the better throws you will see to save a season.
He had a lot of the things that I was like, I don't know, man. He's shown it. He's proved it on the field. I think the Bears are in a great position. You talk about having a guy on a rookie contract. They have 2 more years with him. 2 more years with him on a rookie contract. Hot new young head coach. The organization is going the right direction. Shout out to my boy, my illustrator, Kev Roche, a vaulted Bears fan. He sent me a text. He said he was still levitating the day after.
Oh, he's got to be.
And shout out to Jen, long-suffering Bears fan. All the Bears fans out there, enjoy it. Doesn't come around often, as you know. Elijah, those are our thorns, buds, and olive branches.
It's amazing what happens when you have that type of franchise quarterback and you give him a really good head coach who's also a wizard of a play caller, a competent offensive line that can keep the pocket clean, and a plethora of wide receivers to choose from, whether it's Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, tight ends like Cole Kmet, Colson Loveland, who has really come along here as of late. Oh, yeah, and 2 running backs in the backfield, one with DeAndre Swift, who's ran for 1,000 yards, and a rookie running back in Kyle Monungai, who's a great threat out of the backfield. That team has true balance because of all of those offensive weapons. It's amazing what happens when you can do that. Well, the Gamecock football team is hoping to add more weapons, and also the men's basketball team suffered a tough one at CLA. We'll break that down next.
Need to talk to the folks at Integrated Media. all these awesome football weekends would have been even better, maybe even best. Shout out to Ben Johnson. If you would have called the folks at Integrated Media to get your outdoor setup ready, especially this past weekend when the weather was awesome. They can get you set up. Samsung Terrace TVs, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors, so you can have everything rolling at one. From home theater setup, adjusting your thermostat, monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is who you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Oh, buddy, it was a tough one in CLA on Saturday. At one point in the first half, South Carolina had a 12-point lead. That was as much they led by, up 38-26 with 3.5 minutes left, and still took about a 6-point lead into the locker room break. Outscored 20-15 in the first 10 minutes of the second half. Outscored 21-15 in the last 10 minutes of the second half. And then ultimately, after making 7 of their first 9 shots at the basket, only made 2 of their last 9 shots at the basket in half number 2. And what turned into an 8-point lead with about 8-ish minutes to go in the second half turned into a 5-point loss and couldn't carry over the momentum from the LSU win in Baton Rouge. And now you got to play an Arkansas team on the road who is going to be, let's say, ticked off is the right way of saying it, after Auburn took them to the woodshed in Alabama on Saturday night. Preston, you look at the South Carolina team, you look at that performance against Georgia and the missed opportunity that was, it feels like it can be pretty damaging.
Yeah, that was a difficult situation because you were so close. As we keep kind of having this conversation again with this particular team, I stated it in the 6 o'clock. I'll say it again. It comes down to Michi. Michi didn't play particularly well offensively. He didn't score the points that we needed to get out of him. And it just feels like if that doesn't happen, other guys can play pretty well. Mike Sharm just had a good game.
His best game. I would say that was Mike's best game.
That's great. So it seems like, here's the deal. You have some other guys that are stepping up. You had Elijah Strong 2 games ago. Mike this game. Guys are stepping up around. But the thing really only works if Michi at least has his average game. Maybe he doesn't have to be great every game, but he can't be bad. And he wasn't good this past Saturday.
1 of 8 from 3 is kind of the thing that kills it, because we kind of identified maybe 30% as they shoot over 30% from 3, they normally win the ball game. They shoot under 30% from 3, they normally lose the ball game against power conference opponents, right? They've gotten away with it against certain teams that are high-level college basketball teams. But the thing that killed me was, I guess, the inconsistency in terms of what they did in the paint. In the first half, I thought they did a really great job of either getting in the paint and scoring. Again, your first 9 shots at the rim, you made 7 of them. Awesome. Perfect. You get to the free throw line a lot in the first half. You had 13 free throw attempts in the first half. Awesome. You're a top 10 free throw shooting team in the country in terms of percentage. You get to the line, that's your most efficient offense. And they were really good at being aggressive on the dribble, right? They were taking guys to the basket, getting to the lane, drawing fouls. And when it comes to three-point shots, I think the best three-point attempts and looks they get are when they get catch-and-shoot shots that start with a paint touch. And I think Lamont would tell you the exact same thing. He said that for years now, that that's what he wants his offenses to be, are offenses that are getting their three-point looks inside and out, right? And having a paint touch kind of generate that 3. I thought they did a great job of doing one of those 3 things when they got into the paint in the first half. When you got to the second half, you were then 2 of 9 when you're taking shots at the basket. You took fewer free throws in the second half. And then you weren't able to generate good three-point looks in the second half. Not the same quality of looks I thought that you got in the first half. And defensively, and I thought they played fine defensively. They had one too many breakdowns on the defensive side of the ball. And you look at that last lob that Georgia had to kind of put the game away with under 2 minutes left. And you can look at that and say, well, there was a breakdown. I know they played small, which I don't think they really have a rim protector even with their bigs. Like, Kreist is a good rebounder. I don't consider him a rim protector. There's a reason your team is at the very bottom, really, in terms of block percentage in Division I basketball. But you got caught up on the screen. Help side went over to tag the roller. And Somto Cyril, who was a freak athlete, got a free run to the rim with no resistance, caught a lob, flushed it. That ended up being the game. I think the combination of just not being able to finish at the basket, continue to draw fouls, make the threes when you got them, and just have a defensive breakdown at the worst time ultimately was the nail in the coffin, and now we're looking at being 1-2 in the SEC.
I love your technical breakdown of the play, because my technical breakdown was, get him! No!
Watching your TV, get him! No, don't let him do that!
Don't let him do that! Now, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't like it. And it's interesting because a lot of times, again, I love watching basketball. I think for the fact that I don't understand everything that's happening, so it's kind of like, okay, what's going down? And I saw I saw it develop, and I was like, that's not going to be good, and they executed on it.
Yeah, and Georgia's a really good team. Now, like usually Georgia basketball and South Carolina basketball, you look at as being in the same neighborhood, and we did the whole neighborhood segment last week with the teams I identified as being in your neighborhood. I deemed Georgia to be outside of it because they were really good this year. And I do think this Georgia team, which is top 30 in KenPom, right? That would have been a win if you would have won it. Would have been a quad one win because they are top 30 in the net rankings. It's a really good Georgia team. But what makes us hurt a lot, too, is that it kind of mirrors what we saw last year. How many good teams came to CLA? You played a good enough game to either be in the lead or be in contention, and you weren't able to win it. Again, last year, number 1 Auburn at the time came into your place. Janai Broome got hurt. You had a lead. You couldn't make free throws. You weren't able to take advantage of that game and come out with a win. The team that ultimately won the national championship, Florida, came to CLA. You were one of only 2 teams to hold them under 80 points all season long. You had a double-figure lead late in the game. They start full-court pressing. You turn the ball over. You lose the game in the last 4 seconds. Texas A&M, tournament team, a very winnable game, lost it in overtime. What really hurts about Saturday's game was we saw the exact similar type of result. Essentially, you watched a rerun at CLA, but with a new cast of characters. And that is the thing that I think really hurts, along with just it being a loss. You missed out on an opportunity to go 2-1 in the SEC when other teams that maybe have been expected to be better have underperformed.
Yeah, but this is a reboot we don't want to watch. We didn't like that last season. We don't want this. Nobody's asking for this. Right? They reboot shows. It's like, no, didn't really love the first one.
Yeah, didn't love the first season. Or if you love the first season, the second one's not very good. I've not watched all of Dexter.
Okay.
But I've got a couple friends that have, and the consensus is the first several seasons are amazing, incredible television. Could not land the plane. They would not want a rerun of that last season. They knew what they liked, and the show went away from it and didn't land the plane particularly well. Now, if you've watched Dexter and you disagree, I can't fully argue because, again, I haven't seen it, but that was kind of the synopsis that I got from those who watched it.
So ultimately, I think this is the referendum is these close games, these contested games against better opponents, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
What is that a sign of? Is that a sign that you stay the course and keep the faith, or is it ultimately end up being more frustrating because you can't get over the hump? And I don't have an answer to that question. I'm trying to figure that out myself because you're right. It feels like we're watching the same things over and over again.
I will say there's a shelf life to keeping the faith. And whether or not we have reached that shelf life or not,
that's an individual determination.
Individual determination, but you can only have so many of those for so long before you're starting to say maybe there is an issue with the pond as opposed to just the fish, right? Now, because this group is so new, maybe you can have maybe a spiritual leeway, but the fact of the matter is the calendar, that where we're at in the calendar right now, is not allowing you to have that freeway because time is of the essence because we are already 3 games in to SEC play.
I love how you said shelf life. The idea like somebody looks at the carton of milk and they're like, used by today. Somebody's like, I'm going to throw that away. And somebody's like, oh, it's good.
Somebody might be like, oh, there's like 3 days left. I don't know if that's a winner, but we'll tell you who our winners are for today's show next. And every day we give you our winners of the show, brought to you by the Golden Spur. And Preston Thorne, I want to start off with a fun one, an obscure one from earlier in the show. Antwaan Randle El.
Yes.
Because you're talking about Indiana's football history, and the only name you can come up with was Antwaan Randle El. One of my favorite football players ever. If you're a wide receiver that throws a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, you're immediately up there in the pantheon of one of my favorite players.
Yeah, great wide receiver, tough dude. Kind of, when you follow his career, it's like, yeah, he's going to be a coach.
Yeah.
Right? He's that type of player. It's like, yeah, he'll be a coach. So he had a huge weekend because of Indiana, and he's on the staff with Chicago.
That's awesome.
So shout out to Antwaan.
College quarterback. He played quarterback in college, right? I want to say he was predominantly the quarterback and then became a wide receiver at the NFL level. Really good slot receiver. Obviously a good gadget guy to be able to use, and using the word gadget guy as a compliment. I guess some people might take that as a demerit, but I think that is a pretty good compliment. Antwaan Randle El, early winner from the early game.
Obviously, I have to do it, but I'm gonna expand the category. Shout out to winners regional dances, because there was a time period in history where if you was to travel to a part of the country, they would do a dance in that part of the country. Like, what is this? I.e. the percolator.
Yes.
Or maybe the Bankhead Bounce in Atlanta, or some other place. Maybe Jukin in Memphis, right?
Yep. Oh, definitely.
Cool things that would just happen in like very specific parts. Shout out to Orangeburg, the Roy. Anybody know it?
The Roy.
It's a very specific Orangeburg dance. If you know, you know. I just love the time period in our history where you could go somewhere and be like, oh, that's what they're doing here. That's different. As opposed to now, the internet kind of flattens everything and everybody gets all the stuff. Mm-hmm. But shout out to regional dances, mainly the percolator for Chicago.
Somebody from the Bears has to hit the percolator in the end zone.
Oh, yeah, they got it. Somebody has to hit it.
Somebody does. Another winner for today's show, I want to give one to Bryce Young. Like, the Panthers didn't win, but it's not because of Bryce Young. If you'd have told me going into that game that Bryce Young throws the ball 40 times, I'm like, oh, they're playing from behind, and not just playing from behind all game, they're down 3 scores, right? Because how much this year was the Panthers' offense fueled by what their running game was, whether it be Rico Dowdle getting a ton of carries or Chuba Hubbard early in the season getting a lot of carries. Dowdle ended up becoming one of the leading rushers in the NFL whenever Hubbard got hurt, and then when Hubbard came back, you had a really good duo in that backfield. But Bryce Young had a really good performance. And that drive that they had to take the lead late before Matt Stafford did Matt Stafford type stuff, did what MVP caliber players do in that spot, despite him hurting his hand. You can give a winner to Matt Stafford. But I thought Bryce Young proved something. First career playoff game, throw for 264 yards, had an interception early, had the failed 4th down early, but they bounced back from it, and he was able to give his team a chance to win that home playoff game with under 2 minutes left. Panthers defense couldn't hold up. I know a lot of people are upset about the defensive coordinator and the type of defense they were playing, which was a pretty soft coverage, which allowed Matthew Stafford to be able to do that. But I think you got to give a ton of credit for Bryce Young, even in a losing effort, to give the game that he had on Saturday night.
Winners, celebrity fandom. I saw a video of rapper Freddie Gibbs
I love Freddie Gibbs.
from Gary, Indiana, losing his mind over not only Indiana winning, but the Bears winning.
Yes.
And Freddie Gibbs is normally too cool for school for anything.
Yes.
And to see him, like the 12-year-old little Freddie Gibbs, coming out, geeking out over a sports win was really cool. So celebrity fandom.
Another reason why sports rule.
Yes.
Best hip-hop show I've ever been to. Freddie Gibbs at Bonnaroo after the release of his first album. So he was in one of those small tents or whatever, and was up close for it. Never heard any of his music before that. Was
hooked after that.
Oh, I was hypnotized.
Shout out to Freddie Gibbs, Gary, Indiana's own.
Another winner for today's show, Emmanuel Poku, because out of all of the transfer portal players that South Carolina got over the weekend, the one I'm most excited about is East Carolina interior offensive line Emmanuel Poku. With what Hank called in earlier and mentioned with the offense that they run and how friendly it is. Or was it Reg? It was Reg. Yeah, Reg called in and said that, the offense that they run is a little similar tempo-wise to what Kendall Briles likes to do historically. So it's a fit for scheme. It is a fit for having an interior offensive lineman that did not give up a sack in 498 pass protection snaps last season. there's a reliability thing there, and that's a guy that I think out of all the linemen that you brought in could be a real contender to be one of the better ones on the offensive line because of those things that we mentioned.
Winners, the Bears.
Da Bears. Da Pope. We get an American Pope, and now all of a sudden Chicago sports is starting to climb the ladder a little bit.
Things are happening. I just like long-suffering fan bases, and I just were inundated with clips on my social timelines of Bears fans celebrating the victory that has been long awaited.
Should we do
down.
a YouTube watch party if the Bears make the NFC Championship? Ooh. Featuring Jen Jensen, and the camera's just on Jen the entire time.
I don't know if she'll be able to handle that.
Oh, that's incredible. That would be a winning proposition. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher, the Extra Point, they're winners, and they're next.